I no longer do drugs. I just sound like I do.
And finally, the terrorism police believe that a pillow salesman may make people angry enough to kill. Or, to put it another way, the Department of Homeland Security has warned about a possible surge of election conspiracy theory-related violence in August due to a resurgence in claims pushed by Mike Lindell, CEO of MyPillow. Lindell will be hosting a symposium this month where he claims he will finally unveil proof of his theories, after his other proofs have been roundly debunked by multiple news outlets.
And then Mike Lindell has now been labeled a terrorist.
That's, I think, a broad... That's not quite what I said.
Come on, it sounds so much better that way.
Mike Lindell has not been labeled a terrorist. Homeland Security thinks that his claims could incite people to acts of terrorism.
Yeah, I gotta say, as a person who is a rational, somewhat competent human being, if I was in a building and attacked by a vampire, and I came out of that building, and I was now safe, and I was going to the police, I would probably be a little careful with how I worded it instead of flailing my hands around, laughing uncontrollably, talking about how there was a vampire in there. But that's what this guy sounds like to me. He sounds like a nut. And
wait,
so
what?
Just for the sake of, well, I mean, Mike Lindell, it's like he put no thought into his messaging. He's just gone out and started screaming like a nut. There's a vampire in there, or something terrible is going to happen to all of us, or we're doing this. There was no like, okay, well, I better prepare people for this. I better talk calmly so that they, you know, it's like if I were to like deal with my family, okay, we're in a crisis. We're going to have to be calm about it. I get none of that from this guy. What I get from this guy is that he's absolutely nutty.
Yeah. You know, I feel like a lot of like really big businessmen are kind of nutty. You know,
is that affluenza? What is that?
I don't know what it is, but it's like it's always been a thing. Like Henry Ford was a weirdo, you know, Nazi Jews are trying to take over the world guy.
Yeah, Walt Disney, Howard Hughes.
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know. It's just we're all a little nutty, and like rich people are just cut from the same cloth, and we just notice it more because they use their wealth. Their wealth enhances their nuttiness,
right?
So it affects everyone, or whether like the rich people, you know, just get disconnected from reality because no one tells them they've had a bad idea for 30 years, and they start to think they're infallible, or I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's just, you know, you would think that you would be smart enough to try to deliver a message. So let's pretend that what he's saying is totally true, 100% true.
Yeah.
I wouldn't listen because the general rule of being a nut is if you can't turn off being a nut, you're a nut. You know, if you can act like a nut and then turn it off, you're not a nut. You're just acting like one in the moment, and maybe that's part of your shtick. But if you can't turn it off, you're just a nut, and nobody wants to listen to you.
Guys like Alex Jones, they can turn it off.
That guy can turn it off. There's a manipulation going on there, or marketing, or however you want to put it.
Yeah. So, you know, that's how you tell the snake oil salesman from
the nuts.
From the nuts, yeah, who look a lot like the snake oil salesman. They're just less effective.
Yeah, and like he just portrays nothing but nut, and I don't see how anybody can listen to him and not automatically second guess what they're being told.
Yeah, well, you know, enough people. He has enough people's ear that Homeland Security is worried that, you know, someone's gonna take him seriously enough to hurt someone.
Oh yeah, I guarantee you, somebody who's listening right now believes him, and you know, I would love if you could somehow comment to us and inform to us what it is about him that makes you feel that he is a rational carrier of this message. You got to get a different front man for this hype that you're pushing here. This ain't working.
That said, there are a lot of other people who are, you know, pushing the same stuff, like, you know, Trump himself, Rudy Giuliani. So personally, I think those guys are pretty nutty too. Like, I think they both
Okay, so let's be
But,
fair
like-
to the people that believe this stuff then, and that is that maybe they feel that the liberal agenda media, us, are
Right, us.
throwing Mike Lindell out in front in order to make the whole message look crazy.
Sure. Yeah.
Is that maybe what they're saying? But I mean, people are showing up.
I don't know, because I think people are like, yeah, maybe he's a little nutty, but he's right, kind of thing. But
yeah,
I
he's not
I
a
just
little
don't
nutty
know.
though. He's
See,
like really, really nutty.
he is really. Then again, like, I don't know, Michael Moore's pretty nutty, but people watch his movies.
Yeah, but he can hold down a sentence without looking like he's going to hyperventilate, cry, or scream.
That is true. No, I've never actually seen Mike Lindell speak, so I'm kind of taking your word for it that he sounds nutty. I've read what he's saying, and it's like, no, this is stupid, you know. And there's some stuff in like his he did this documentary, and there's stuff where like he's talking and like code is scrolling behind him, and it's like supposed to be some kind of evil code they discovered, but people who know what it is like, these are just random numbers.
Well, that's Ruby on Rails for Twitter, you know.
Exactly. Like that's
right.
That's nothing. So I mean, it seems like it's propaganda exclusively targeted towards stupid people. But
so I was watching Bill Maher, and
as you do.
As I do, I watch them all though. You know, anybody listening, I'll remind you that I listen to a lot of conservative and liberal talk and humor and stuff. But he was basically saying that he thinks that all these people are selling out their country by selling out the election, and that they're doing it for the perks and for the money. Do you think, and I realize you're not an expert, I'm just throwing this out to you out of curiosity.
Sure, yeah.
Do you think these people who are opposing the election and everything, do you think they really believe what they're spouting?
I think it depends. I think Mike Lindell does. And the reason I think that is, A, like you said, he's pretty nutty, and B, like financially speaking, he's taken a big hit from all this. Like, you know, he's made money too. He's made money from grifting, but like he's still probably net lost money from, you know, Dominion suing him, and or I think they sued the network he was on, but anyway.
But what you're saying, that is his willingness to take a hit sort of proves his belief in.
Right. I think if he's a snake oil salesman, he's bad at it, you know, and I don't know, that's not beyond the realm of possibility, but I think it depends. I think, you know, I think almost every Republican politician in this country, you know, initially was like, Trump needs to stop talking about this. The election was fine. And now they're saying, you know, the election was stolen because their supporters believe it. And I think that's like, that's obvious that they don't believe it, right? And they try to talk about it as little as possible. Someone asked, I forget who it was, I think it was Mike Pence, you know, what do you say to your colleagues when you talk about, or what do you have to say about January 6th? And he was just like, I don't talk about it. Because it's like, you know, they just don't want to talk about it. And when they do, they echo, you know, Trump's talking points. Because if Trump decides, this has happened several times, if Trump is like, this guy's bad, this guy shouldn't be elected, then you'll lose your primary. That's, you know, he has the entire party over the barrel. And I don't know if Trump believes it. I think Trump probably is the kind of person who, you know, whatever he wants to believe is true. Like, I don't think he sweats whether things are true or false when he says them. I don't think it even really enters his mind. I think
You think he says it enough where it becomes its own reality?
I think he makes his own reality. I think he decides something is true in his gut, and at that point the belief is unshakable. And I think this is a process that happens in 0.5 seconds, you know?
Yeah, I don't find that all that far-fetched, because I think we all do it in matters of guilt a lot.
Sure, yeah. And I think we've all known people who are like that too.
Rewrite our history based on guilt and poor decision making, especially when it comes to screwing people over. If you gotta you got a conscience and you're not ready to face a certain part of your personality, a lot of people drinking and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of people who do that. So I don't know if it's hard to believe that he can do it.
Yeah, no, we've all done that about some things, and we've all met people who do it about everything, right?
Right.
You know, we've met people who are so far into their own thing that, like, you can't even talk to them. They're just in their own world, right? And I think that's where Trump is.
You think he's going to run again in 24?
Yes. I don't see why he wouldn't.
Do you think the Republicans will accept him, or do you think
yes, he will definitely win the primary if he runs again. That is my prediction.
Really?
Because the base loves him. The base loves him more than they love anyone else. He has name recognition, which is huge. And the base thinks that he won the last election. 3/4 of Republicans do. They think that. So why wouldn't he win the nomination if he wants it? Would he win the presidency again? I think there's a good chance. I mean, he barely lost the last election. You know, the elections have been close both times. Joe Biden will be pretty old if he runs again.
Hell,
I don't think
right
he should.
now.
Yeah, I don't think he should run again. I think he'll be too old. But, you know, if he does run again, it might go well, because I think one of Joe Biden's key advantages against Trump in this last election, and the reason that, you know, maybe he prevailed where Hillary didn't, was because he's not that threatening to, like, old white people, because he's an old white person and he has a reputation for being pretty moderate. But I think if, you know, Joe Biden doesn't run and, say, Kamala runs, then I think Trump will win, because Kamala is a black woman. Kamala's quite moderate. Like, yeah. I don't even really like her that much.
I thought she was the most liberal senator this country has ever known. That's what they're saying. Which is
no, like... I know, and that's purely what they're saying, because she's a woman of color. Like, they can get away with it because, like, she's scary to the Republican base. So I think she would lose purely for reasons of racism.
It's so shocking to me that the world is still so down on women. You know, it's like everybody got a mama. You know, we all work with women. We all know women. Everybody wants to be in some kind of a relationship, and most people are straight. I don't know. It's a little weird that people are so that this is still going on. I think we were talking last week about how I kind of felt before the election that we were on, like, the tail end of racism, and then I got reminded, oh God, no, we're not. Okay. You know, I felt that way with women too, and apparently people do not like them.
I think you make the fundamental mistake of assuming that men respect their mothers and their partners. I think you do.
I do.
I think a lot of people don't.
Okay.
I think it's a huge problem among men that they don't see even the women in their life as people.
That is just great. So if you're out there and you're listening to this, and you really got to ask yourself, do you see women in your life as people and leaders and the people who can help the world? I mean, if you don't, you got to, you know, quit faking it. Quit faking it. If you're going to be a jerk, just be a jerk. Yeah. Then we know where you're at. All right. So coming up tonight, we have Horror Gamer. We're talking a lot about Resident Evil. And in the meantime, go call your mama.
I want you all to remind your moms and dads that you have to be registered in order to vote. So kids, make sure that your moms and dads check the registration days in your community. Remember, boys and girls, it's their duty and privilege to vote. Make sure that mom and dad do.